Welcome to Mind Your Mental Health channel, fourth episode. So far we have done 3 episodes. First episode we introduced about the channel. The second episode and third episode we talked about general concept about the mind, what it is, where it is, and different aspects of it. This episode we are going to talk about perception, which is one aspect of the mind. If you recall past 2 episodes, we talked about perception, thought, emotions, behavior, and primary mental functions, which includes orientation, attention, concentration, and memory. We said these are the 5 different aspects of the mind or different dimensions of the mind. All these 5 aspects together presents as a mind. So we are going to talk about perception today. What is perception? It is awareness about the environment around us, the world around us, or understanding the world around us. We collect information from the environment where we are or in the world through our different sensory modalities. That's how we can perceive information. We need a lot of information to think, to behave. Everything we need information. We need a fund of information. That information, we get it through perception. We perceive the world or we take information. Many information, millions and millions bits of information goes in from the time we are born till we die. Even they say, even before the child is born, child has a capacity to receive certain sensory informations. So that important is the perception. This perception is made possible because of the sensory modalities what we have. We can broadly say vision is one sensory modality where we can see things. As I'm seeing, I'm taking in information which goes into the brain. And I can smell, and through smell I get information which goes into the brain. And I can hear things. I can hear somebody is talking in the next room, then I can get that information. Or even I can recognize who is talking, that is interpretation. That also goes into my brain. That is another way of getting the information. So seeing, smelling, and then hearing, then touch sensation. Now when I touch, I get certain sensation. So what I do is I try to triangulate all these information. Why do we need perception? Can't be without perception. We cannot exist without perception. So perception is something which gives us information. Information is something which keeps us alive, keeps us, whatever we are doing is based on those information. We collect this information right from our birth to death. Even the researchers have said that we start perceiving even before we are born into this world. Even before we are born, when we are in mother's womb, we do perceive things. A child is born like a clean slate. There is nothing in the thoughts or nothing in the memory. As the child grows, it collects information. There are a number of sensation goes on. Say something called visceral sensation. What is happening within the body? Hunger. Those kind of things. So child might have hunger as a sensation. Perceives hunger, starts crying, and somebody feeds the child. Mother feeds the child with the milk. And child feels a pain, a perception. Then it starts crying. Somebody looks into it. Why the child is crying? So from that time onward, that early, child is collecting information. What is pain? What is hunger? And as the child grows, more and more sensations or sensory modalities becoming sharper and well developed. The child sees the mother's face and child hears the mother's voices and child records it. Then the father, then the brother, then the people around the child. Then child go to the school and things happening in the school. Like that, bits and pieces of information goes in. It gets stored in the brain. That's what we call collectively memory. This is very important because unless I collect information, there will be nothing in the brain. So I'm seeing the camera in front of me. Instantly, I am recognizing this is the camera. How? Because I would have seen the camera first time in my life, probably 30 years, 40 years, 50 years ago. Probably my father said, this is camera, this is how it works. Then I recorded that in my mind, in my brain. The moment I see that, I match it. I recall that information. Oh, yeah, I know. My father told me this is a camera. Then we recognize this is a camera. This happens instantaneously. Not that I'm going to think, okay, I perceive, let me go check, pull out the file and verify. No, it happens so instantly, just like that. So that is the power of perception. So we perceive different information all through our life. As we gather more and more information, our knowledge grows, our data bank grows, our information system is full of information. When I take an information, it goes into the brain and gets probably classified and stored. Probably I might have a file, like computers have a file, I might have a file called mother, with a mother's name. And that file will have all the information about the mother. How she used to feed me, how she used to love me, how she used to care for me, how she used to cook, and her voice, and her singing, everything in that file probably. When I think about mother, immediately I get all those information. I can use whatever I needed. Suppose somebody is asking me, how does your mother look? Immediately, my mind searches, finds information, and then I can imagine, oh, that's how she looks. Then I can express it. I can tell the person, this is how she looks. So that is the function of the perception. It gives you information, lots and lots of information, and that information is stored in the brain, in different parts of the brain. And then we retrieve it whenever we need it. We can go back and get the information. Because this information is fundamental for many other aspects of the mind. We will come to that in the next episode. Perception is very essential for the mind, and I would say for living also. And perception is what makes us what we are today. And we perceive the world right from the time we are born, even before that, and we collect information. And our growth, our mental faculties, our mind, everything depends on the information what we gather. The information what we receive from the childhood to late childhood and the adolescent, adult, as we grow, all the information, all the experiences, everything is perceived and stored. That's what shapes a human being into what they are today at this point in time. So perception is very important. Perception gives you tons of information that you use it in everyday life to compare, to know, to understand, to react. For everything, the perception is required. Suppose I perceive this world or perceive only painful things in the world, all negatives. Unfortunately, I perceive only negative things in the life. Now, all my childhood, adolescent, adulthood, I've gone through lots of difficulty. My perception is going to be negative. Now, there are mind's aspect which will counter that and bring up the person. But sometimes it can also make the person very negative. Suppose I had a pleasant time all through my life, very successful life. Then my thinking, my thoughts will be different. So perception is very important. It shapes us and it also makes us understand things. I said information goes into the brain and gets stored. So sometimes information can be perceived and stored in the brain without any emotions. Neutral kind of information. I'm looking at something very, what we see every day. Probably I'm looking at my watch. I see the watch, I recognize the watch, then that is information what I have. Sometimes the information what we perceive or what is happening around us in the environment can be with an emotion. Is another important interaction we need to keep in mind. Perception gives us information. This information can be charged with emotion. Suppose I see a very bad accident, very dastardly accident, then that information is stored, but that information is stored with lots of anxiety or lots of negative feeling. Suppose I'm in a theater watching a very nice, very lovely program, then that also is information goes into my brain, but that goes in with a pleasant experience. Likewise, information can also associated with different emotions. I see something very horrific, then the information will be associated with fear. When I recall that information, when I recognize the information sometime in future, that information can bring in the same emotions again. This we'll discuss further when we talk about emotions. I'm just giving you an idea of how information doesn't go in by just information alone. It can also go in with the associated emotions. I'm going to give you an example to compare with the mind. The example is computer. You might be wondering, he's supposed to talk about mind, why he's talking about computer? I'm going to draw parallel. In a computer, we have central processing unit where you have motherboard, you have memory chips, all those things. And then you have a keyboard and a mouse. And probably you can also have a microphone. Okay? And then attached to the CPU, you also have a monitor on which we see what is happening in the computer. Okay, there are three sets of components which constitute what we call as a computer. So the mouse, the keyboard, the microphone are called input devices. The central processing unit where all the processing goes through, it is where the computer is. Then computer attached to the monitor and the speaker. Monitor and speaker gives us information what is going on in the computer. So monitor and the speaker is called as output devices. What I input through keyboard, mouse and microphone is processed, and then output is through the monitor and the speaker. So whatever computer does and whatever I am requesting the computer for is sent to me or given to me through the output devices. So now to draw comparison with the mind. The perception is an input device. The vision, the smell, the hearing, everything, whatever I discussed so far is an input device which inputs information into the brain, into my mind. And my mind or brain, different aspects, different parts of the mind together acts as a central processing unit. Yeah. So what we discuss as a perception in the computer language, it is an input device comparable to mouse and keyboard and microphone. We will talk about other aspects of the computer which matches with the mind in next few episodes. To conclude, to summarize, perception is one of the important functions of the mind. It is the awareness and interpretation of the information we get from the environment, from the world. We receive this information through different sensory modalities like seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, touch sensations, vibration, and visceral sensation. All the sensation give us lots and lots of information which gets stored in the brain, which the mind uses for other aspects of the mental activity. This episode we discuss about perception. Next episode we will see what is thought. That is another interesting aspect of the mind. We will talk about it in the next episode. Thank you for being with us.